Are you considering buying a house in 2022? Maybe you're a first-time home buyer, or maybe you're someone who just hasn't purchased a home in quite some time and you're wondering about the process of buying a home. Well, in today's video, we're going to walk you through the steps of purchasing a home. Everything from talking to a lender to talking to a real estate professional, and then we're going to talk about the market in general and some things that you can do in order to help your offer stand out and be competitive in this crazy housing market. My name is Jeb Smith. I'm a real estate broker here in Southern California, and my goal with this video is to arm you with information. I believe the more informed you are, the better decisions you can make, and I feel like it's imperative in this market that you make the right decision when buying a home. So we're going to walk you through that process today, help you make sense of this information so that you can make the best decisions for yourself. Now, the first thing I want us to talk about in this process is, do you pick a lender or do you pick a mortgage professional first? I often have first-time homebuyers reaching out asking, do I talk to a mortgage expert or do I talk to a real estate professional, to start the process? And it's a good question. Now, oftentimes it depends on how you got introduced to the process of buying a home. Sometimes you have a friend that's a real estate agent, or sometimes you have a friend that's a mortgage professional, and that's where you start the process, and that's okay. But if you do start with a real estate agent first in the process, chances are that real estate agent is going to refer you to a mortgage professional to get pre-approved. Pre-approval is a huge step of the home buying process, and in my opinion, the most important piece of the process in its entirety. Without that, you can't shop for a home. Without that, you don't know what your monthly payments are. It is imperative that you know that you are pre-approved and that you're ready to go in the process. So if you start with a real estate agent, chances are they're going to refer you back to a mortgage professional. And if you start with a mortgage professional, that's okay too, right? Because they need to go through that process with you. And we're going to talk about the steps of what that looks like here in just a minute. But once they get you pre-approved, then they might refer you out to a real estate agent. Now, something I want to address here is, if you came to me as a first-time home buyer, I'm a real estate agent, if you came to me first and I referred you to my mortgage lender, I'm not referring you to my mortgage lender because I get something from it, right? I often hear people saying, well, they're just going to refer you to the people that they know and they work with because they make more money because of that. No, that's not the process at all. I'm referring you to an expert that I know that knows how to do their job and can guide you in the right direction, right? I believe everything they tell me. I know they're going to walk through the steps with you, the proper steps, and go over the information with you so that you are informed and so that you can make the best decisions possible. And the same thing on the mortgage side, right? That mortgage professional wants to refer you to a real estate expert that knows what they're doing, so that you can actually get to the finish line, right? If you're pre-approved and you can't get an offer accepted, it's a lose-lose situation for all parties. That's why us as as professionals, we want to see you work with the right people. Now, that doesn't mean you can't go out and get additional opinions. It doesn't mean that you can't go talk to, multiple lenders or multiple realtors. And we're going to talk about that when we talk about the process here in just a minute. It just means that we want you to start the process with someone that we know, we like, we trust, and we know that can get the job done. So understand, if somebody refers you to one of their trusted professionals, if you will, it's because we want the best for you and we want to make sure that we can get to the finish line. Now, if you're new to the process and you don't have a real estate professional or a mortgage professional to even start the process with, where do you start? Well, you can go into a bank. You can call a call center online. Neither of those I recommend. Honestly, I think you should talk to a mortgage broker. A broker has access to more programs. They have less overlays on programs. They can get you approved when sometimes a bank and a call center cannot. So make sure if you do talk to a bank or a call center, you're also talking to a broker just to compare. Right? And we're going to talk about that again here in just a minute when we go through that pre-approval process. Now, again, as I mentioned, if you don't know a mortgage professional or a real estate professional, I'm providing a link here below. These are people that I know, like, and trust that I can refer you to make sure you're taken care of during that process. Now, once you get in touch with one of these professionals, or you're starting the idea of talking to a mortgage professional, what's the process look like? Well, that's what we're going to dive into right now. We're going to tell you the steps of what the pre-approval process looks like so that you have an idea of what to expect going into it and you're not completely blind during that process. Now, one thing I recommend before ever talking to a lender and going through the pre-approval process is having a budget. What is a budget? A budget is itemizing, your monthly expenses. How much do you currently pay, for groceries? How much do you pay for gas? How much do you pay for your car, your student loans? Itemizing all of that information against your monthly income and figuring out what you're comfortable spending on a mortgage per month. A lot of people just go into the mortgage process, the pre-approval process, and ask a lender, well, how much can I afford to purchase, without ever considering how much they can truly afford. And in a market where things are high and prices are continuing to move upward, it's imperative that you know your own budget so that you don't get in a position where you're over your head. So once you have that budget in mind, you're going to make that call to a lender and start to have that conversation. Now, that lender is going to ask you some basic questions. They're going to ask you about your income, probably going to ask you about credit scores, how much money you have for a down payment, how much money you have in the bank. These are all normal things that they need to know. But if you don't provide any documentation and you just provide that information, that's not a true pre-approval. That's just a pre-qualification. You actually need to go the next step and provide them with documentation to back up the conversation that you just had. So you're likely going to fill out a loan application, and this is going to be providing your social security number, providing all of the information that we just discussed, your employer, but you're also going to provide tax returns, you're going to provide pay stubs, you're going to provide bank statements, and the lender is going to run your credit to make sure that your credit score meets the guidelines necessary in order to move forward. And one thing to keep in mind, this process shouldn't cost you any money. This is a free process. You should be able to have this conversation, provide this documentation, and the lender should get back to you and tell you how much you can afford to purchase. Now, I often have people reaching out saying, how long should this process take? Should it take weeks? No, you should hear back from your lender within a couple of days. In fact, my lender will typically have you approved within about 24 hours as long as you have all of the documentation provided and you don't have any crazy, circumstances going on with employment or, credit or what have you. It should be a pretty quick process, to determine how much you can afford to purchase. Now, during this process of pre-approval, the lender should be quoting you an interest rate. They should provide you with fees, what it costs to actually get that loan, how much money you would need to bring in based on that scenario in order to close that loan. In addition to your down payment, they should go over closing costs with you. They should be able to provide you with this information to give you an idea of what to expect. You shouldn't just be talking monthly payment. You should be talking, full fees, everything involved, so you know exactly where you stand and what's involved in that process. Now, once you have this, I think it's important to talk to another lender, maybe two other lenders, just to get a comparison to make sure you're getting the best deal, to make sure you're getting the best deal on interest rate, to make sure you're getting the best deal on fees. But when you do compare lenders, something to keep in mind, you need to do this essentially on the same day within a shorter period of time. Because if you compare lenders across days or weeks, chances are rates are going to be different, fees are going to be different, because things change in the interest rate market on a minute basis, hourly basis, daily basis. So if you're not getting the quotes all at the same time, chances are the quotes aren't actually going to be comparable. And in addition to that, you will have some people out there potentially quoting you, lower fees, lower rates, but not providing any documentation to back it up. So just make sure you're getting documentation based on what they're promising you so that you know what to expect. Now, keep in mind, none of this is guaranteed until you actually go into escrow and lock that rate. Don't be surprised that if you hear one interest rate that may be way better than another and think that's the best lender to go with. You need to, again, compare those lenders after your offer gets accepted, just to make sure that your rates are comparable on that day, and from there you can choose the lender to go with. But one thing I want to point out here during this process is it's not always about the lowest rate and the lowest fees. It's also about, can the lender actually get the loan done and do what is promised? In the environment we're in at the moment, We're having to short contingencies in some cases. In some cases, buyers are waiving loan contingencies. And so you need a lender that can actually perform and get, the job done. So don't just compare rates and fees, compare communication, compare, the person that's able to answer your questions, in depth and provide you with some security. You'll kind of have an idea of who you mesh with best, but you want to go with the person that can deliver what they're promising. So just keep that in mind when you're comparing lenders. And another thing I want to touch on here is that not only are you comparing lenders, you might be comparing different loan programs as well. Maybe you're considering doing a conventional loan, but you're also thinking about FHA. Well, have that lender compare both loans so that you know what fees are involved, what down payments are involved, what your monthly payment looks like on both options so that you can make the best decision for you. And a lender should be able to provide a comparison, a side-by-side analysis of all of this information so that you have all the information you need to make the right decision. Now, once you've gone through the pre-approval process, you're secure on your loan, you're financing, you're comfortable with that monthly payment, the next thing you're going to do is talk to your real estate agent, your real estate expert, if you will, the professional that you're going to hire in order to help you find a home. Now, one thing I want to be clear here, as a buyer, you're typically not paying this real estate agent any fees, right? That real estate agent is typically being paid by the seller, by the listing agent on the property that you're buying. So you're not paying any additional fees when buying a home through a real estate agent. So just keep that in mind. But once you've been pre-approved, the next thing you want to do, and maybe you even start this before you actually talk to your real estate agent, is come up with your list of non-negotiables on the property. Those are things like maybe location, school district, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, things that you're not willing to sacrifice on that home because they're truly important to you. Now, you may have some wants or some needs in the property, like you want to have hardwood flooring, or you want to have an open kitchen, or you want to have a dog run or an RV parking or whatever it is on the property, but might not be non-negotiables, but they're nice to have. And that way you can have a list of both so that when you do have that conversation with the real estate agent up front, that real estate agent has a better idea of what it is that you're looking for. So now you have your budget because you figured that out before you talked to your lender. Now your lender has pre-approved you, and in some cases maybe they approve you for more than your budget was initially. And in some cases, maybe they approved you for less than your budget. But either way, you have how much you're comfortable paying, you have how much you're pre-approved up to. That's a conversation you're now going to have with your real estate agent and talk about, price, where you're comfortable going with regards to price. You're also going to talk about those non-negotiables that we talked about a minute ago, the things that are important to you in the process. From there, your real estate agent is probably going to talk to you about some different areas, some different communities, give an idea of what to expect during that process. And if you're working with someone like me, I'm going to talk about the market in general. I'm going to talk about what the market's doing so that you have an idea of expectations in the market. I think it's important to understand the market that you're getting into, because a lot of home buyers go out there and expect just to find a house, write an offer, and get it accepted. It's not always that simple. And so the real estate agent should be, telling you about the market, what's going on, expectations as to writing offers and all of that good stuff. And from there, they should start sending you some properties that match what you're looking for. And in some cases, you have properties that you've already seen that you want to see, and those are properties that you're going to talk to your real estate agent about, and you guys can have a conversation to see if that makes sense. Now from there, you're going to determine whether or not that's a real estate agent you want to work with. It's okay to also interview multiple real estate agents, to talk to multiple real estate agents, to have a conversation to see who best fits you. Now, something I wouldn't recommend is working with multiple real estate agents at the same time. Telling an agent, whoever can find me the property that I want is the agent that I'm going to go with, because no agent is going to work as hard for you unless you're totally committed to them. Now, there is a caveat to that, and that's if you're looking in, say, multiple areas. Say you're looking in Orange County, but you're also looking in San Diego. Because of whatever's going on in your life, you could live in either. In that case, maybe 2 different real estate agents is the right choice. But if you're looking in one area, typically you want to go with an agent that you trust, someone you feel can get the job done. And that way you have an agent that's committed to you and helping you find the right home. Now, I don't want to talk about the process of writing offers and all of that in this video. It would drag it out way too long. So I'll put a link in the description below to a video where you can get more information on what that process looks like. And then at the end of this video, we'll talk about, buying now versus waiting, to give you an idea of what that might look like in this market as well. But a quick reminder, if you don't have a lender, you don't have a mortgage professional that you trust, here's a link. Go there. I'll refer you to somebody, again, that I know, like, and trust, and will take great care of you with white glove service. So now you have your pre-approval, you have your real estate agent, you're ready to go out and start making offers on properties. What should you expect? Well, the market that we're in right now is the lowest inventory I've ever seen in a market since I've been in the business. What that means is we don't have a lot of properties to choose from. Buyer demand has been high because interest rates have been low, and supply has been dwindling for the last, couple of years, not just due to the pandemic, but it was, accelerated. The pandemic accelerated, the lack of supply because it gave people the ability to work from home. It gave people the ability to not have to go into the office, to work out of state. And so a lot of markets have changed because of the pandemic, and it's made supply even more scarce. So there's just not a lot of options out there. In fact, where I'm located, we have about a third less properties on the market this year than we did last year, which was already a very low supply at that time. So finding the right home in this environment is probably going to be a little bit tough. And that's what I want to talk about right now. Over the next couple of weeks to months, you're likely going to see more and more inventory come to the market, which typically happens during the spring. The spring is usually the busiest market of the year because that's when people list their homes for sale. All those winter markets that have snow, that, where you can't really go out and see properties, those homes start to come on the market, along with areas, where the spring is the best time of the year. Homes start to come on the market there. And so this is the time of year when you start to see homes come on the market and go into escrow pretty quickly. I expect the same to happen this year, which is going to give you more options to choose from. So if you're a home buyer out there looking and you're not seeing a lot of options, not seeing anything you like, step number one is be patient, right? Don't just make offers on properties because you can't find the right one. Wait for the right one. At some point, the right one will present itself. It's just a matter of when that's going to happen. So the spring, you should see more properties come to the market. Now, in order to be competitive in this market, not only do you have to make competitive offers, but I think it's important to be flexible. To be flexible on some things in the house, right? You have your non-negotiables, but occasionally some people want everything. Not only do they want their non-negotiables, they want their wants in that property as well. I mentioned, earlier, open kitchen, hardwood floors. Sometimes people can't get off that, and they won't buy a home unless it has everything that they want in that home. That could be a problem in the environment we're in because of the lack of supply. I never want you to sacrifice on buying a home, but in some instances, it's okay not to get everything, right? You can't pick up a house and move it in most cases, so location is imperative, but you can always change the flooring. You can always change the paint color. You can always remodel the kitchen. Maybe not immediately, but at some point in the future. So keep in mind that if you're a little bit more flexible on what you're looking for, your opportunity to find a home might jump substantially. Also, keep in mind, if you're flexible on time frames, sometimes sellers have contingencies. They're selling their home contingent upon finding a replacement home, which means that they're not going to sell their home unless they actually find a home to move into. And in many cases, buyers don't want to deal with that, right? Because it could, be an instance where they go into escrow and that seller isn't able to find the right home, so the deal falls apart, so they're not willing to consider it. Maybe that is something you consider because you'll have less people willing to do that, and it might give you a better option of getting your offer accepted. Also, being flexible on time frames. Sometimes sellers want a longer term escrow so they can find the right property. Sometimes they want to rent back from you after closing escrow. That could be another instance where being flexible on time actually helps you get your offer accepted because there are people out there that have certain deadlines they have to meet because maybe they've sold their house, they have to find something by a certain period of time. Maybe they're starting a new job, they need a house by a certain period of time. So if you're flexible on timeframes, that could also help you in the environment that we're in order to get your offer accepted. Now, there are other things you can do in order to get your offer accepted. I'm not going to talk about it here in this video, but I will link to it here if you want to dive into that information, things that you can do to help your offer stand out. Now, one thing I would like to ask is if you found any value in this content at all, do me a favor. Hit the thumbs up. It helps more people see it. Feel free to subscribe if you want more information like this, but that should give you a pretty good idea of the process, where to start, what to expect when talking to a mortgage professional, what to expect when talking to a lender. Now, I could get super deep on all of this stuff, but it would be a couple hour-long video, and I have provided some links below in the description to other videos that will help you during that process. But if you're watching this and you're still wondering, should you buy now or wait? What does the market look like in a couple of months? Do me a favor, check out this video here. I dive into it in more detail. But for now, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. I appreciate your support. Hope to see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.